everybody to the Toku Portal podcast for Kamen Rider Saber. I am Vashi V, and joining me today is...
It's me, Zero, everyone.
Welcome to episode 12.
Yeah, I know.
Now, I missed episode 11.
Well, I mean, episode 11 was solid, but, there wasn't much to talk about, honestly.
Oh, no, episode 11 had a problem, and it's why I have a problem with both of these episodes as a whole.
Oh, yeah, okay. We can go right into it if you want. First of
I'm
all, spoilers, 11 and 12, pretty fucking important episodes. So
yes, absolutely.
If you haven't seen it, watch them first. Go for it, Vashi.
If you haven't watched them while you're watching this, go watch it and then come back. That's how you should do that. But, okay, so episode 11, I feel with the way they set the premise of these two episodes up, you have A story, B story. And they got them wrong. For the path that these two episodes took, A story should have been the monsters and what they were doing. Caliber is should be secondary, because Caliber's already done what he needed to do. He's literally now just waiting. The focus should have been on the monsters, the portals, and all of that whole malarkey.
Oh, yeah, that's a good point.
And the Caliber stuff should have been secondary, especially given the fact that with this episode, they switched it. We could have had an entire episode dedicated to what the monsters were doing, show a little bit of Caliber and Kenzan fighting, enough to placate the crowd,
No.
and then have the bulk of the fight this episode while we have everything else going on.
Yeah, that's a good point.
I mean, giving them a better chance to expand better.
I know what you mean. It's the villain story arcs should have been switched. The problem is the hero story arc works, but then your idea is better as a show. The one problem then becomes is what does Blue do, right? His story is gone if we switch them.
Not necessarily. All you have to do is, as you're doing, you got 20 some odd minutes, break it up. Over the course of the episode, focus on the monsters and their plan, but every so often cut away to the fight. See a little bit of the fight, go back. See a little bit of the fight, go back. See a little bit of the fight, go back. Finishing move, Blue jumps in. And you can end there. And then this is all the fallout of the previous episode. So the last of the seals getting unleashed, and then everything that happens this episode with Caliber.
No, I know, but I mean the whole thing that Kenzan's kind of going over the edge is he almost got Rentaro killed, right?
And well, like I said, you could still have that because obviously Rentaro was there for that fight, and so was Sophia. With the way they were painting the shots, they're still clearly visible, and then Rentaro jumping in to save Kenzan's life, you can still have.
Yeah.
Which still results in Kenzan risking his life.
Yeah, okay. If you put it right at the beginning, like the fight starts at the end of the last episode, and then the mini fight kind of finishes where Rentaro takes the hit.
So
I feel that would have worked.
You could do it that way, or like I said, you can piece out that fight throughout the episode, and still have the episode end on Rentaro getting injured to save Kenzan, and end the episode there, and still pick up this episode exactly as it did.
Yeah, maybe.
It would have set it up better, and it would have paced it without shoving Caliber down our throats. Because
okay, yeah, I do feel like the Caliber shit just came out of nowhere. They're okay, we're building up Caliber. Who is Caliber? And then now the 3 episodes are okay. We know Caliber. This is the entire plan. Now he's gonna get his ass kicked next episode, right? I do feel like the Caliber shit is rushed. But I also feel like there's so much going on in these episodes that it's like maybe if we made it a 3-parter. Well, I mean, I guess it's already a 3-parter. Maybe if we made it a 4-parter.
Or if you would have, like I said, it's like if you would have paced the episode better on what you were focusing on. Because literally, aside from the very beginning of that episode of 11, where we get the monsters attacking and then the two seals pop, everything else in that episode is Caliber.
Yeah, it's true. I mean, to be fair,
it's the B story is being portrayed as the A story, and the A story is the B story.
Yeah.
Then we get to this episode, and it's swapped.
Yeah, it's true.
Because it's focusing on the wrong things throughout.
That is a good point.
It's changing what the main focus of these particular episodes are supposed to be. If you want to focus on Caliber for these 3 episodes, fine. Focus on Caliber for the 3 episodes. Make everything else just kind of secondary. But instead, this episode focuses more on...
Yeah, you're right. I think that's a problem with this episode, where it's like this really should have been like the Caliber story continued. It's just like he just shows up at the end because he's gonna be like the major thing in the next episode, right?
Right.
And it's like, yeah, you're right. It's a weird lull because like this is clearly Caliber's big like 3-parter thing, and it's like in the middle he's like not even there.
So
I do agree that's a little weird. The problem, well, it's not a problem with your criticisms. It's just like I'm like, well, I can't hate it too much because these 2 are like literally kind of the best 2-parter of all of Saber, and it's probably because we've got like an experienced guy who wrote like half a fucking double, and then you got the guy who worked on like, you know, like was the lead production, like lead director on like Wizard and all these other shows. So like these 2, right, like the writer and the director have done like a ton of Rider and Sentai and Ultraman and stuff.
Like it
so they know what the fuck they're doing.
More like a Rider show. It absolutely feels more like a Rider show.
Oh yeah, I mean especially because like the cuts are like basically like head height or just like chest height and up, and like the angles when they're talking is like I'm like, oh, that's a fucking Rider shot, right? Because it's like it's not in wide, it's like it's just emotion during an action, right? And it's like especially anything with like Rentaro, if you see him like this whole episode is like, oh, that's how you shoot a fucking Rider episode,
right? Until the very end, when he shows up to save Toma, then you get the wide shot of the I'm hurt, but I'm still here to kick ass. That wide shot.
Yeah, I mean, well, I mean that is still a Rider thing. I mean, like you're gonna have to get a wide shot somewhere, but
right, but that's the standard.
Yeah, standard coverage for Rider. Right, exactly. But I agree. Like the way this is shot, like it feels okay. Here's the thing: it feels very specifically like Kiva to, I'd say, definitely till double. I'm not like O's and 4s, they change stuff a little bit up, but like definitely from like Kiva to double, this is like very standard, like how you would shoot Rider. It does have the one problem I've seen in this is like it's really solidly filmed. There's just like one problem, and that's like it doesn't have the energy, like the impact when like when they hit. Right, it's like because I'm imagining if this was Build, because this director worked on Build also, right? Like the way they add the special effects in Build is like you feel the punch, you feel the hit, right? Like every time a fucking hit lands, or like a major one, right? Like, here it's like you don't feel the energy.
For this episode, a great point of that to point that out is when Kenzan's on the ground and Caliber brings his sword down onto his sword that's, you know, up and blocking. When you watch that shot, it just feels like he pulls back at the last second and just kind of sets it on his blade, when that's not what it was. Yeah. And it's like that didn't feel legit. That felt like, ooh, this looks pretty.
Yeah, and then like the CGI effects, I think the problem with them is like they happen too fast. It's because like there's so much going on with the CGI. They're like, okay, no, we have to cram the whole CGI sequence into the attack. It's like, okay, dude, like just fucking shorten the sequence, right? Like slow down the
Right.
impact.
Rai pointed out, because he's in the comments, it says it's the same problem with Rentaro getting revenge on the monster that kills his master. Which is the wolf bastard. Zuos, I think.
Yeah. So
Rai says there's too many stories going on and none of them are getting the proper attention. Which is true because the only one that's been getting attention for the last 4 weeks is My Dad's a Traitor. That's about the only
well,
one.
I
That's
mean, to be
really
fair, it's
getting
building to
attention.
this episode where it's like thing
To me,
happens at the end of the episode. We'll get to that.
By this point, for me, it's just so unnecessarily drawn out.
I don't know. I feel like
given the way that it's played, it's just, to me, this could have been resolved faster.
Oh, yeah.
Or the revelation that this wasn't my dad should have changed things too, and it did nothing.
Well, I mean, he does carry the weight on. Well, the thing with this episode is it shows that like Rentaro is carrying more weight on his shoulders than just like redeeming his dad's name, where it's like.
Right.
At first he thought his dad was a traitor, then he tried to redeem his dad's name. Then he's like, okay, you fucked over my dad and Luna and like all these other people, like you gotta go down. Right? Like I had to fix all of this. So now he's got like this fucking messiah complex going on.
Which I get.
Yeah, it makes sense for his character.
Given how last episode went and into this episode, I'm sorry, his personality should have shifted a little bit.
Yeah, it should, but I think he's like kind of a little shell-shocked of what happened to Blue, so he's like, fuck it, base instinct, okay, monster, you hurt my friend, I'm gonna take you down now. Because like, I can't have what happened to Luna happen again.
The problem that I have with that is we literally watched the same fight twice.
Yeah, I agree. That like first fight shouldn't have happened like that.
Yeah, no. Tuma should have got there in time to help.
Oh no.
Or at least somebody else should have went with them who also got their ass kicked.
I don't think so. I mean, like, I think the biggest problem was like Kento got his power up. And then, like, you get, like, the Caliber gets his fucking, like, Megatron, Galvatron power-up going on. Right? And then, so I'm like, okay, that should have just been he gets his power-up and he, like, kicks his ass in one go. Right?
Yes.
Like, it shouldn't have been, like, the equivalent of, like, half of this fight happening last episode. And now, like, oh, you just get, like, the beginning part of that fight again. And then, like, the conclusion. Right? It's
to me, if they were gonna do this, how I feel it should have been done for it to be proper is last episode, Kenzan used his 3-book form, kicks Caliber's ass.
Right.
Enough to hit Caliber to do what he normally does of fuck this, I'm.
Yeah.
Because at this point, there's no purpose to Caliber fighting anybody.
Right, he's just waiting.
At this point in the plan, him doing anything is stupid.
Yeah, exactly.
You get into this episode, and that's when the other book should have popped out, and when he goes, fine, I'm going to use all of my strength too. And
yeah, that's a good point. I do agree. It's like, that form should definitely have been in this one, because it would make it more menacing. The problem then becomes is like, oh, we're getting new form episode, new form, which is just a general thing, is like you give at least one episode buffer between two new forms. The problem is like, yeah, you're right, it doesn't make sense, right? Because it should have just shown up here and then we get new form next episode.
And that buffer is hard to hold on to when you have 6 friggin' riders.
Right, it's a good point. Yeah, I think
like,
that's
it was a problem in X-Aid.
Oh, also this guy also directed X-Aid's action, but like X-Aid's action's decent.
Like the action, it was superb.
Yeah.
I'm not gonna lie, it was fantastic.
like I don't even blame the writing too much. It's just like it kind of just happens. It's like you're right. It's the problem is there's too many writers because it's like okay if Caliber doesn't show up, then like if all the other writers show up against any general, they can win. Like literally two of them show up and they can beat any single general. Like if three, it's like it's over. Like the generals have no chance. Like Caliber is like
Well,
the
that's
only one
where-
who stands a chance.
Well, that's where this plan works out. You need the main five to be at least five of them to fight one monster. So there's six riders, five monsters. Send one general to occupy the last one, which is more or less what happened this episode. Because Saber had already done his last episode, so they had to stall him so that they can get another one to come take care of that one.
Right, exactly. Like, okay, here, let me say my bit and then you can go off on this episode. My thing with this is like the last episode was decent. This episode's actually good. Like it's one of the few episodes I'm like, okay, no, I have to actually watch this in like 1 time speed because normally I'm like double speed, 4 times speed through this show. But I'm trying. It's because like I'm lazy and I basically watch this right before we do these.
The podcast, yeah.
Right, and so the thing is like. I was watching it, I'm like, fuck, this is actually good. I don't want to speed through this because one, everybody can fucking act now. Right? Two,
Yeah,
we're not.
they've a lot better.
Yeah. Two, it's actually shot like a writer show, so it gives them a lot more weight. Three, like every single character has something to do and all their dynamics are in play now. Right? Which is cool.
Yeah.
Like there's not like new random character, there's no exposition. It is a little clunky because then they're like, well, they could have fucking killed Blue, but then the generals piss off, but then Blue's like, okay, that's weird. Why did they do that? At least he questioned it. But then he's like, okay, I don't have time for this. I gotta go save people.
Right. It was literally one of those, that's odd. Crap, this is still going on.
Yeah, I know, right? Like, that's great. I fucking love... Like, I actually really like this fucking episode. But it's got problems, as you said, because... of the time it comes in the story, not so much this episode as itself. I have one other problem though, is like you get the edit of like Toma trying to race to where Kento is, and then it cuts to him riding on the bike and there's no sound, which I'm like, oh, okay, that's fucking dangerous. Which basically means that's when the fight's happening and like Kento's getting his ass kicked, right? But then it just cuts to something else, and then it cuts back to fight, and then it cuts to fucking Toma showing up. I'm like, okay, that cut is too early. Like, move it to much later in the episode.
And and this is one of the particular issues I had with it. I understand that, and I agree with Ryan. You are right. This episode is better than last week. He also said that the problem isn't too many writers. The problem is the show spreading itself too thin. There's no focus, which I do agree with. But with this particular cut, the problem I had with it is I understand this takes place in probably a fairly large city. I find it unlikely that...
Oh, that it would take all day?
That say at the latest this was taking... The Toma fight was taking place at 2-3 o'clock in the afternoon.
In the afternoon, yeah, you're right.
Nice and bright outside, and it takes them till at least, depending on the time of year, in seasons 8, 9, 10 o'clock to get there.
I don't know about that. I mean, like Japan's sort of like the same latitude as like, you know, like top America, lower Canada-ish. So I'd say like because it's like winter, it maybe like 6 o'clock. So like 3 hours. I'm like, okay, Tokyo's huge. It doesn't take 3 hours on a motorcycle, right, to get anywhere.
Especially when, as you were watching him driving, there's no traffic. I get that's because there can't be traffic. Because motorcycles are dangerous.
Well, yeah, but again, it's because motorcycle laws, right? Like they can't ride a fancy bike. Even though Toma's bike is pretty normal, actually.
Like, I get why everything looks the way it does until that point. I could accept him getting there, at sundown. I could accept that because you can gauge, because you can go, it was bright and sunny. Now time has passed. That makes sense. And it's not oh my God, what did you stop and do? Did you stop and get food and read a book?
Right.
Like,
And it's not even that
thought.
Yeah, it's not even that like he's looking for him. Like there's no shots of him like frantically trying to find him because it's like a big ass city. I'm like, they're giant pillars of light. They're not hard to find. Also, you have a map.
Right. Right does make a fair point, and it's one I choose to overlook. He said there's no traffic because the city is currently under attack exactly in that region. I choose to overlook that because I don't care.
I mean, it's fine. Like I don't mind the traffic thing because I'm like, okay, you're just on that one road where not a lot of people are. For that shot, I'm like, who cares? Whatever, that's fine. But yeah, like that shot should have been redone.
That shouldn't have been in the middle of the night. I get it. It was to not have to use the raining scene again.
Oh God, it's so true.
That's the only reason for.
Oh God, it's so true. So there's that rain one. I was gonna make the joke of like, oh shit, nobody died in episode 11 because it wasn't December.
Pixie ended up watching this at lunch, and I ended up, or when she went to lunch, and I watched it on mine, which I take mine before her. And you saw the message, the message she put in here. I think it was in general, or not. Where did she put those at? We had an entire discussion about this. Did she put them? Okay, sorry. She put it in one of the other chats that we have. Because she ended up sending me a message saying, "Did you watch it yet?" And I said yes, and she said, "Merry Christmas! It came early." Which
she knows the Christmas trope. Nice.
She knows all the X8 Christmas stuff.
Well, I mean, technically Kabuto started it, but yeah, that's fair.
Right, but
she watched X8.
X8 whiplashed us with it, which is why that one sticks out for me so much. That scene, honestly, is my biggest issue with this particular episode. For very obvious reasons to anybody who actually has seen Rider ever.
Oh, yeah. I mean, especially considering it's like, oh no, Kento, he's fucking dead. I'm like, holy shit, that's actually kind of a hard-hitting moment. Or getting there, it was pretty solid. And then it cuts to two characters standing. I'm like, oh, for fuck's sakes. We almost killed a character and he's not dead. We then kill another one and then there's two characters standing there, which has the potential of them just bringing you back to life. I'm like, you're even in the fucking ending, right?
Right. That's the problem I had. I have no problem. You want to do the red herring death? Fine. I'm okay with that. You don't need to show Castle and the dude from the King Arthur book, because that's who they were.
Oh,
and
okay,
also,
okay.
I am so very pissed off about that. They couldn't give me 12 episodes of peace before he became an actual character in the show.
Well, it is 2020. So
Great,
the shit year continues.
God damn it.
It's the year you can't have nice things, Vashi.
I know, because if I had nice things, I wouldn't have a series of Kamen Rider that reminds me of Naruto.
Oh, fuck, it's true. It's so true. You're right. Plotline-wise, yeah, it very much is.
The worst thing for me, the two worst things, is using. I don't want him to be from the South Pole branch, right? I don't want him to be from any branch.
No, he's not from the South. There's no way he's from the South.
No, he's gonna be the magic MacGuffin god person.
Yeah, that's pretty obvious. I feel like the South are gonna have their own writers because the Sophia person, of the South like clearly is not exactly super trustworthy. Like she might not be a villain,
no,
but she might like get in their way.
She's absolutely getting in their way.
Right, like
She
especially with the
literally said
like the
Kenzan.
timing she called like Kenzan, I'm like, oh, you're just setting up Sophia.
Oh yeah, she set up Sophia and set up Kenzan to die
Well,
because she knew what was gonna happen because she had to have been aware of the last fight.
maybe. Yeah, you're right. I mean, like that could have been a power play. I think that was more like her trying to take out Sophia, but
Right. But no, the two reasons why this feels like Naruto, to me particularly specifically, is because Kento is being Mr. Edgelord, I'm so sad Sasuke.
yeah, it's true. I mean, to be fair, like I think Kento does a okay. That's not true, right? Like it depends on how into Naruto you go. Like the early shit, it sort of makes sense, right?
Yeah.
But like the
No,
more
no.
it goes on, the stupider it gets, right?
Yes.
Where,
And this is
whereas
like
I feel like this is like early Naruto, where it's like, all right, this is a little over the top, but I'm like, it's not.
early.
Um,
It's early
it's-
to mid.
yeah, like
early to mid.
it's still feasible. Continue.
Until he goes on his quest to kill Caliber and ends up becoming an asshole to do it. He doesn't go full Sasuke.
Yeah, it's so true.
And then the fact that we have Green,
Yeah.
who is literally just Naruto. And I
Kind-
mean early Naruto, I'm going to be obnoxiously hyper and overactive.
Well, he was more well behaved this episode. Also, like,
Oh, yes,
he's
absolutely.
better than Naruto because he like takes perfect direction. Because like, Buster's like, hey, keep an eye on him. You know, I think he's gonna pull something. And like, I like how like they went on a mission and now they have an understanding, right? So he's like, oh, I can trust you to keep an eye on this kid. Right. Also, Buster was fucking good in this episode too.
Oh, Buster was fantastic.
Right. Like, especially when like, okay, May had like this great moment where she pretty much explodes. It's like, what the fuck is wrong with you? Pretty much. And, like Buster just sees it and like cuts her off. Like, oh, chill out. Let me talk to him. And then he just does the like, I'm disappointed in you, dad speech. Pretty much, right? And it's like, don't do it again. And then he's like, oh, he's probably gonna fucking do it again. So I'll tell Green to keep an eye on him. Right? Like, that's, I also like how like we don't get that like episode of what Buster and Green were doing. It's like, all right, they had an adventure. They have an understanding now.
Like, and that's the thing, is like, it's not needed to have. Yes, it would be nice to have. If only to kind of break up this, plot. But I get it. Fry commented, it all comes back to Naruto. Let's just wait and see if God tries to put everyone to an eternal slumber where they dream their perfect world. Again,
Okay, I was gonna go with the pain thing, but you're going right to the end.
they can't do that because that's literally the end of Ria Soldier, and that was like last year.
Oh my god, that's great. Oh, I was gonna make a freaking joke. I'm like, we can't have a fucking Buster and a Kenzan episode. Like, there's no room in this writer show for Naga and Balance. Honestly, there would be such an improvement, though. Right? Like, Naga is like the best thing in that damn crossover with like the writer and Sentai crossover.
Yes, it was. Naga was about the best thing in Naga and Balance were the best things in Q Ranger, in my opinion. Like, there were some pretty solid characters in there, but they always lit up the screen. Like, and that's something I have an issue with here. Is like, you look back through a lot of the writer, there are a few misses with it. It's like, but there's always that one character that is the draw of the show, and it's not always the main writer.
Right, like, I mean, X-Aid's decent, but like, not everybody latched onto Emu, right? Like, most people are like,
Right.
alright, like, Snipe's interesting, or Laser.
Snipe,
Or like,
Snipe,
Hero's
Laser,
kind of an
or
ass, but
Kurama.
he's interesting. Right? Like, you had options.
Right. It also, and since you brought up Laser, to me, if you're gonna do the death thing, at least make me actually care about the character before you do it.
Yeah, I mean, but
To me,
that's still
to
pretty
me,
hit or
this
miss because then you get people like Pixie who's like a alright
right,
laser, not really super interesting.
right, which again, I get it. It's like, but still, even by that point, it may not have held the emotional weight for her. The understanding of why that character had to die, how it drove other characters forward, made sense. With this,
Right.
aside from it pissing off Toma, there was no purpose to that death.
Well, sort of. Because the thing is, like, Toma also remembers Luna and he's pretty much gotten, like, most of his memories back now. So, like, it's like, oh, okay, I don't have to carry the burden anymore. Here, now it's
Right.
your burden to carry. Go actually be the main writer. I'm like, man, that is the laziest fucking way to write that.
I mean, there's that too. Then, um, like I have no problem with them. You want to kill off a character, kill off a character. Fine.
Yeah, I mean, this show's got,
This
like, way
doesn't.
too many to begin with. Like, fuck, why are all the generals still around?
That too.
Right?
Like
Like, the one of them
to
better. I
me,
mean, I guess Calibur's probably gonna die. But like, goddamn. Like, also they got less interesting this episode because they're like, all right, we have to open this door for power. I'm like, ah, come on, man, you guys were doing so good.
and then they drop back into the standard trope of we just want to rule everything. Um, but like to me, it's like this death doesn't feel earned. This just feels like it was a necessity for the writers.
Yeah, I mean, I do agree. Like, well, here's the weird thing, right? Like realistically, in a fight, that is what should happen. Because like
Yeah,
I feel
I
like
I
Caliber is
agree.
still better at fighting, but you're right. Like in a story arc, it doesn't like it's pretty fucking narratively convenient how this happened.
Like
Because
to
like the thing
me,
is like Saber is not that high stake of a writer show where it's like holy shit every fight is life or death, right? Like
but they treat it like it is.
uh, well they pretend to, but then like they win every single fight.
Right.
Right, but then the villains keep continuing their thing, which was interesting until then they did the whole like, oh, we just want to have power to rule over it. I'm like, all right. All the other two I was fine with until like S whatever dude in all black who's helping Caliber said that. I'm like, even you, man, I at least had hopes for you.
Right. Like to me, like to do the death earned in this for to do it right for me in this particular using everything that's been set up in this episode. Have Kenzan still go off to do his fight, still get his shit kicked in, but Caliber doesn't kill him, so he doesn't solve any problem.
Oh, you mean Kento and
And
Espada,
yeah, yeah,
not
spot.
Kenzan.
Sorry. Have him go do that, still get wrecked. Have everything play out the way it did, except for two things. Espada doesn't die.
Yeah, like I feel
Blue
like he
dies.
could have lived.
If Blue would have died while Espada was off doing that and getting his own crap wrecked because he couldn't get his mind right, I
Yeah.
feel would have had more emotional impact on the characters of the show rather than the way this played out.
Oh yeah.
I
If
felt
if we
I
s-
felt
if we
I
merge
feel
like
that
episode 11 and 12 together.
right, and then just have 12 and have Rentaro die Blue instead of Espada.
Right.
Like
I feel like that would
don't
have
even have
made
him fought the battle.
like that would have had like
But
such a huge impact because he's like the nicest person, right? Like
right,
everybody would be affected by it.
and more so Kenzan because or not Kenzan, Espada for the simple fact that Espada, Kenzan's or Rantaro spent how much of the last episode telling them to chill,
Well, at
get
least
his
like a
mind right.
third, at least a third of
It,
that episode.
right, like I feel him passing away, even if it's just from his wounds, he doesn't have to die in a fight. would have had more impact, especially if it happened while Kenzan was, or Espada was off, out of his mind fighting with Caliber. Because then not only did it happen, he wasn't there for someone who considered him family, and damn, to me, it would have held much, much more poignance and weight if they would have done it that way. And it still gives Tomo the push for the next episode, because that is one of his friends too. Yes, he's got a deeper connection with Toma, with Kento, due to the shared past. But aside from that past, he's had more interaction and character bonding with Brentaro. So that weight still would have been there. They could have encompassed everything they needed to without having to do the red herring death.
Sorry, yeah, I agree. That probably would have been the better course of action. What they did in this episode isn't terrible, but you're right. Like, your idea is definitely better.
It's not that it's bad.
Yeah.
Because it's not.
Anyway, I mean, you could go off on this. I'll be right back. Keep going.
For me, it's the fact that it wasn't structured right. It wasn't given the right balance it needed. Like, this show's not terrible as a whole. It does show a lot of promise. It does some wonderful things. But there are aspects in this show where it completely drops the ball. Like, one of the things we were worried about, and this is the collective we for all of Toku Portal, was that this would turn into a clusterfuck of characters and threads that would get missed and overlooked. And I feel that's the case. It's like they could have, if the focus would have been, I feel, on the way that I had mentioned earlier in the podcast, A story, B story, and have them be the right aspects of it, this would have played better with overall. It wouldn't feel as disjointed. It wouldn't feel overly heavy or forced. And to me, this particular, especially with the Kento death, is very, very unnecessary and forced, especially given the Let's Show Tassel and the King Arthur book dude, whoever he is. He may actually be King Arthur, who knows? Japan is weird with their casting. They will happily cast Japanese characters to play white people. They have done it before.
Yeah, I'm back.
So, and I was going brief overall, is like, it's unnecessary to do the red herring.
Yep.
And then give us
the actual death?
The actual fact that it's a red herring.
Oh yeah, it's true.
Like, it takes all of the weight and the impact out of it, because, like, I would talk, like, the conversation we had with Pixie, because she said, the Merry Christmas came early. I was like, yeah, no, I'm like, it's a red herring, because there's no reason for Tassel to show up along with the dude from Thomas King Arthur vision. There's zero reason other than we're going to bring him back to life.
Yeah, like, honestly, I would have had this would have. Sorry, go ahead.
Like, it's probably not going to be a right away thing. It'll be a let's take you here to console you, blah blah blah, guide you on your path, get you your power up.
Yeah, that's true.
Then we're going to bring it back once you've achieved the power up. That way we can go, oh look, but he's fine now.
Yeah.
But you've unlocked whatever power seal you needed to unlock.
Right, exactly. Also, like, it could be like Kenzan's gonna go off, or not Kenzan, Kento's gonna go do some training, come back or whatever, which is fine. Right. But you're right. It's weird. Like, this would have had more impact if, like, they had a fight and like Espada's belt just fucking shattered.
Right.
right? Because I'm like, okay, he's not dead, but like he can't do anything now.
Like he gets knocked out of he gets knocked out of his henshin during the fight, but then just turns around and transforms again, and then a little bit more of a fight. Go back to here, back to this. He's dead. Crap. Like it just it didn't hold the weight that it should have at any point during any of this. Because I literally spent a good portion of this episode going, I literally just watched this yesterday or last week. We literally watched everything about this last week until the very end of the fight.
Yeah, maybe.
The very end of this fight is the only thing that's different.
Yeah, that's true. I guess like if I was watching the full episode of last week in like normal time, this would feel more played out. But like I was speeding through that a little bit. But I feel like this is a better episode than last week's. But you're right. It's annoying that they're like so similar back to back. But like, here's the thing. Like, I don't hate the writing in this. I mean, it's a little contrived. But the thing is, like, I don't feel that this, like, the writer and director are, like, the leads for the show. So, like, it's not up to them to determine what happens at what point in the arc. So it's like, well, at some point, like, their hands are tied. So they have to write this story. But you're right. They didn't have to literally make, like, episode 1, which is, like, 90% the same as episode 2. Right?
Which I feel, yes. And I will gladly accept that this is obviously none of the fault of the director or the writer of the episode. This is the fault of the overall writer and director of the shows, because it's that vision for the overall how they want them to play out.
Right.
And then because yes, anybody could have wrote this episode. Events would have happened more or less the same way. When it comes to the key points of what the main writer wants to happen, because they want this person to die here, power up here, introduce new villain, whatever the major events are, and the overall appearance and polish of the show for what they want.
Yeah.
The rest of the writers just kind of fill everything in.
Yeah, I mean,
flesh it out.
Honestly, it's also the problem of like it's fucking Christmas season, which means like, okay, you're gonna give Caliber a power up, you're gonna give Saber a power up, right? Right. So Caliber just got his power up. Kenzan then had his moment. Saber is gonna get his power up. Then there's 2 weeks to Christmas.
Right. This is very much let's fill out the Christmas
wish list thing, pretty much.
Christmas wish list sales. Which, again, I get that this literally the existence of the show is for that.
Yeah, I agree. I mean,
like these shows really aren't for entertainment. They are basically gigantic toy ads that just happen to be disguised as really good television.
Right. It's basically like it's a Bandai ad made by Toei.
Yeah, it's a 25-minute Toei ad for Bandai.
Yeah, pretty much. And so the thing is like, I feel like there's just too many damn characters, and that's what's causing the buffering. Because like Ryuki has around this amount of characters, so does Gaim and stuff, but like they space those out. Right?
Right. The too many character things leads me to a question.
I mean, also I also have one thing is like, even if they have all that, they only have one villain in the first arc or 2. They don't have like 5 of them, right?
Right.
And that's what's like eating up more time. Okay, go ahead.
Right. They're constantly having to shift between the 3 villains they have. It's not joined up well. So I have a question. They have how many people in that base?
Like 6, I think, at this point.
At the current moment, we have 6 if we're not counting the injured Ranto and Sophia, who's currently not there.
No, wait. Okay, so let's see. We got Saber Blades Espada 3, Kenzan Buster 5.
Buster.
What the hell?
May and
Oh yeah,
Koji.
May, Sophia, and Slash. Right. So 8.
Oh, so we can't count Sophia for this,
Okay.
and we can't count Rantaro, so 6.
Right.
Why did only one person mention that Sophia is missing, and then nobody thought about it at all for the rest of the episode?
Well, I mean, they're like,
I understand everything else that happened too.
yeah. Well, the thing is, like, for
But-
them, it hasn't been a week, right? It's been like less than a day. All this
But
shit's
she
going on.
She rarely leaves.
Well, I don't know what her freaking schedule
Well,
is.
as it was kind of alluded to, because it was enough that May thought it was weird that she wasn't back.
Yeah, that's true. I feel like Buster should have said something, but like Buster's kind of just almost a blockhead with like, okay, she can take care of herself, which is not true because he had to come save her last episode.
Right.
So like
I
it
feel-
also double like doesn't make sense why he's not. You're right. That is a fucking goddamn
The only
plot
one that
hole.
they did, the only the legitimacy they gave to a character that should have asked it and didn't is Daishinji. Because I feel Daishinji would have noticed and asked too. He literally spent how much time at the base.
Oh yeah, that is
He's
true.
gonna know she's not there. But
But
they
Shinji
did
was
the
fucking
whole-
fighting,
they did
and
the
he
whole
hates
fake
fighting.
yes, so he left.
Yeah.
I'm okay. I'm okay with him not asking questions, 'cause even though that he is one of the ones that would have. Buster, I feel, would have done more, especially if he would have went. Well, the last time she did this, she went and met up with Caliber. So let's go check that out.
Yeah, I feel like actually, does he show back up in this episode? No. Oh, he's fighting one of the grunts or something.
Yeah,
right?
he shows up. He goes to find. Disaster does his thing, distracts him long enough, and then he goes off and fights the grunt.
Yeah, I feel like he should have been like wondering where the fuck Sophia was when walking on, but like again, he's kind of really fucking single-minded of a character,
Right.
so like he wouldn't really say that out loud. But you're right, it's kind of a little oversight.
And,
I
and
guess-
I also get that this is, especially in this particular point of the show, is a very, we have to focus because we only have so much time on these particular key things. They didn't really have time to even do the whole, I hope she's okay.
Yeah, I think that's actually like a perfect point of like this is literally the problem with the show. Is like you have too many characters and not enough time. Like
Right,
that we
and
literally don't
everything
have
is-
time to space shit out.
And because everything is go, 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 there's no downtime for the characters to have the rational thoughts that they should.
Right, that's a good point. I mean, like it makes sense why Toma is not worrying about Sophia because it's like he's got enough to worry about Kento that like he's not even
Right.
thinking about Sophia, right? And like May is worrying about like Rentaro, so like she doesn't like. I mean, yeah, she's worried about Sophia, but it's like, what's she gonna fucking do, right? Like worry about two people, like one's enough of a headache for her right now. Right, and it's
Right.
like, well, we don't really see what fucking Kenzan's doing, and Slash is kind of just fighting because he just wants to get that over with as fast as possible, right?
But his fights are still as limited as his fights have been on screen since he's shown up as a writer. His fights are a joy to watch.
I mean, he's the X8 rider, so of course.
Like especially for me when he gives Saber the power, the rock band.
Oh yeah,
Like I hate that finisher because I hate any of that cartoony stuff in the real world type stuff. It drove me nuts with the
Yep.
three little pigs and whatnot because that just bothers me a lot. I
yeah,
understand. I understand this is just TV show and I like that, but that just still bothers me. But the point that saved that finisher, Saber doing that finisher, was his little prancing dance to do with Slash.
yeah.
Like
That's
if
fair.
that was like creme de la creme of like this is happiness here. Which is sad that was the happiness I found in this episode.
I mean, to be fair, like the the suit actors are doing like the heavy lifting for this show for most of this show,
Oh,
so like,
absolutely.
of course they're gonna keep carrying it.
Um, it to me that's the it's the little things for this show that they excel really great at, like those little moments, the especially now that the filming is starting to feel more like Rider than Sentai, is really the only thing that keeps drawing me back to Saber. Otherwise, I'd borderline drop it. Like, if not for the podcast, this is up until
Right. Like the last like
like
two
if they would have
episodes.
cut that if they would have cut the last 30 seconds off this episode,
Oh yeah.
oh, I'd have been back next week, no problem.
Right? Exactly.
But
Like,
because
oh, this was
but
actually
because
good.
it's got that hook, but
Right, right.
because they added Tassel and um I'm just gonna call him King Arthur for now.
Yeah, that's fine.
Tassel and King Arthur. At the end of it, I'm like, well, I don't need to watch this because I know how that's gonna play out.
Yeah.
Like
Like literally, like
the
why did they
only
add that? It's so
the
stupid.
only way that this plays out well and enough to be, oh my god, I wasn't expecting that.
Is if the new guy is new Espada?
Well, no, if they just leave him dead.
Oh yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like the only
And
way I
they
could
do
see that happening and a new character showing up is like if he just picks up Espada's belt and is like, okay, I'm the new guy. I'm from
right.
the future or whatever.
Like that's it. That's the only.
It's
only
not
way
gonna
that
happen. But
Which have us sit there and go, like, other than that, this is everything we've ever seen before. Which again, how long has Rider been going on? I
oh,
I fully am
continuing from like
aware.
90, Kuga's what, like 99, 2000? So like
Right.
20 years.
For continuously for over 20 years. Ideas are gonna get rehashed.
Yeah,
Look
I
at
know,
Hollywood. If
but
you don't
you
believe
would
me.
think they would learn shit like don't fucking reveal revivals in the episode people die.
Right.
Right?
Or
Like
even
like that
don't
that
even
should be
open the
lessons you
doorway for
learn.
anybody to possibly think that.
Right? I'm like, okay, I get maybe going for like, oh, this is too sad. We can't make the kids depressed, so we're gonna give them hope. I'm like, literally just watch one episode, man. Right? Like, it's not so bad. Right? It's not like fucking Kirya who died for like an arc and then he came back. Right?
But here's the thing that they did with Kyria. Up until like the episode, it was the episode preview that everybody's like, oh yeah, Kyria comes back because he was in the episode preview. Or well,
Yeah,
Laser's
yeah, yeah.
hero.
I know what you mean.
Up until that point, there was no bringing Kyria back.
Yeah,
Dead was
I mean,
dead.
especially even in the episode he comes back in, he's sort of like, oh, this is just a recorded message or whatever. That's what it sort of almost felt like.
Right, and then it goes, oh yeah, no, I'm real.
Yeah, yeah,
This is me.
that kind of weird. But I mean, like, it works in X8 because that's sort of the gimmick of X8 is like data, human data.
Well, that what I was getting at is like up until like that episode preview of him coming back. At no point from the moment they started the death knell for Kiria until that point did we ever think they're gonna bring him back. They're gonna revive him. At no point did we think that. We've seen how much Rider
Yeah, but like,
because they didn't have because they did that. Well, I understand him bringing him back. There was going to be a big gap, so it wasn't necessarily a red herring. But they didn't even open the door for the idea of bringing anyone back until that point.
right, which, I mean, that does seem to be like a trope of his, like kill a character, do the arc, and then bring them back, which, you know, it's annoying that he has to keep bringing characters back. But like, hey, at least he has the brains to do the fucking arc and then do it.
Right. Don't and even if say that was still the case to do it this way, then don't show them.
Yeah, or
Unless that itself is the red herring.
oh yeah, I was gonna say like if you're gonna do like, oh, maybe something might happen, like just silhouette, like don't show who it is.
Right.
right? Because then it's like, well, we don't know. Like, did more villains show up? Is that the southern base? Like, we could be guessing who the fuck showed up, right? Like, is there somebody just coming for the belt? Is that a monster? Whatever, right?
And if you're
Whereas you
gonna do
show
it,
these guys, and it's like, okay, there's only one conclusion. It's like, well, he's gonna come back now.
and if you're going to do it, don't tie it into to your narration scenes.
I don't
To
know. I
me,
think that's just this writer's style of like he likes to tie his narrators into the show.
Which fine, you want to do that, fine. The problem I have with this now is because it throws off the overall idea and plan
Oh, of the book.
that I had for what Tassel was doing.
Right.
And it changes Tassel for me because he goes from the, I'm telling you a story from the past to I'm telling you a story as it's happening that I should have no knowledge of.
Well, I mean, we don't know what his powers are.
That's my point. You've now taken him from just the standard narrator guy to that old eccentric man reading the local kids a story at the park or whatever to some form of omnipotent person / creature being, whatever.
Yeah, I agree. That's not great.
Godlike powers, and that bothers me. That bothers me a lot.
I mean, I feel like if Tassel was gonna show up in the show, he was gonna have some bullshit like this anyway.
Oh yeah, I know.
But I'm like, why?
It's why I'm not happy for it.
Like, honestly, they should have just been like, "Oh, you're going," and then he just like sits there, and then that person goes, and Tassel never shows up. Because then, like, oh, okay, Tassel has connections to people. He's kind of in the other world thing, but you don't know if that's in the future or whatever. Like some weird magic shit's going on. It's fine.
Right. Like there are ways that they could have done this to do the reveal that would have been much, much cleaner and better. Like I said, the last 2 episodes much better by far from what came previous. Outside of a handful of moments that I feel surpassed the overall of these last 2 episodes because they were just that fantastic. Yeah. For those for the character moments specifically that those handful of moments were for. Mm-hmm. Like May's ingenuity with the fireworks and whatnot.
Oh, right. And then like the Buster can stuff. That was great.
Right. Yeah. So it was like there have been more fantastic moments, but as episodes as a whole, these 2 by far are leaps and bounds above what it was. And I'm not entirely sure if it's because the show's finally doing what it's meant to do. Or it's like, or do we? Is it because we got a good combo of director writer, right? Right. We'll find out in the next couple of episodes.
Yeah, because like this writer has worked on a couple episodes, or at least 1 or 2. This director has definitely worked on 1 episode before of this show. I mean, like either way, they've worked on previous writer shows, both of them, so it's fine. But that being said, like here's the number 1 complaint. This is a good 2-parter. The problem is like the overall structure of Saber screwed them up. Yes. Because these are solid. Yes. Like these are actually good. Like especially this episode, like everybody's interacting. This is Saber where like everybody's fucking done exposition. They all know what's going on. All the villains are doing their own thing. Like this is Saber fully functioning as it should. But then like because of the episodes that came before it, it's fucking them up arc wise.
Right. It takes the overall show down a notch because of it.
Yeah, so like I'm not gonna tell anybody who's enjoying this because like I enjoyed this episode. Like this is a good episode.
Oh yes. Depending on how
but it's got problems as a show.
And to me, it comes down to how much Rider have you seen.
Yeah.
Because the more Rider you have seen, especially out of just the last 20 or 22 or whatever it is now. What is it, 22 now?
23, I think. Yeah.
So separate those 22. The more of that you've seen, the more problems you will notice.
Yeah, I mean, that is a good critique. My problem with that is like we're gonna turn into the fucking like old fart film reviewers, who are like, so boring doing the reviews. Like, do something different because they've seen like hundreds of movies at that point. It's like the same problem. We've seen like 22 years of shows. And I'm like, okay, that's fair, but I'm like, I don't expect them to do something new every time. What I expect them to do is not fuck up the things that other shows fucked up. Like, learn from that.
Or don't fuck up things that other shows did fantastically.
Right, exactly.
Like the killing somebody off at the end of episode 12.
Oh, Jesus. Yeah, it's a number.
Literally episode 12.
Yeah.
Which again draws us right back to X8 because it's same time frame.
Yeah.
May not be Christmas, but it's literally the same episode.
I mean, that's the first show we covered on this podcast too. I think that's why we keep going back to that.
That, and
it's actually good. Yeah, you're right.
It's especially for that particular scene.
Oh yeah.
Like, so we have the same number of episodes by actors who are at the same level of acting.
I don't know about that. I feel like the X8 actors were better, but like in this episode, you can see that the Saber actors can act if directed well.
What the reason why I'm saying like the same level is like the same level of experience prior to the show.
Yeah, well, I guess I don't know how.
For a good portion of it, I'm sure Kiri has had a lot more acting than.
Oh, I was gonna go with like Snipe or something, but like yeah, you're right. Like
the older characters in the show by far leaps and bounds more experiences than the main cast.
But like Emu and Poppy, I don't think had that much experience. You're right.
Right. So let's just take the writer reactions, the main character reactions between Emu and Toma. While yes, Toma did fantastically, you actually felt the pain of Emu.
Oh yeah, like
because of the way it's acting, the way it was shot, everything that went into that shot, to include the skill of the acting, was better. And then for me that's I understand that's still my personal opinion.
Right. Well, I mean,
everything about that gave that nice pretty little bow on it.
Yeah.
We got the same thing, but like the wrapper's torn.
Yeah, you're right. I do agree. It's like everybody acted really well. Also, like fucking the costumes were like really on point this episode. Did you notice that? Like fucking everybody had like a unique outfit and like so distinct, and everything is like fuck. Whoever was doing costuming this episode, good job. And yeah, a lot more subtle acting by everyone, and like the shots. Well, like it was really well directed because like the shots are very Rider, like the lighting and everything.
Right.
Except for the fucking 3 hours to get to the goddamn fight. That was bullshit.
Right. So.
But
for me, is like.
Yeah, you're right. Like
it was. This is the bar of what you were aiming for. What you're aiming to emulate did. You got about here. So not that far, which given everything that we've seen in the show is extremely fantastic.
Yeah. Well, I feel like it's like if we just take the two-parters on their own, they're like at least a 7 or an 8. But then you put them back into Saber and it's like, oh, you got to knock it down like a peg, right? So then it becomes like a 5 or a 6 because like Saber itself is fucking you over, which is kind of sad because like pacing is killing the show, which is a real fucking problem because this is the group that kind of worked on Ghost, and the thing that killed Ghost is pacing, right?
Yes.
So I'm like,
very much pacing.
oh my god! I also forgot I haven't had the fucking scrolling text going. We've talked for like an hour.
I kept looking at it because I'm like, Well, maybe my screen's being weird.
Oh my god. Freaking yeah, I'm like, oh, I'll turn this off for a second. It won't use as much CPU. I'll turn it on before the podcast. Like, go an hour, and then
Yeah,
fuck.
hour.
There you go, people. This is
There you
what
go,
Saber
people.
does to you.
If you've made it long enough to see the title scrolling across the bottom of your screen now, thank you for listening.
Yeah, pretty much. We're like a
Thank you
modern
for
movie now. We put the title at the end. Anyway, yeah. Thanks everyone for joining us. Actually, good episode of Saber. Kind of makes me want to see more Saber until the fucking last 30 seconds, which made me not want to look at Saber ever again. But at least it means the show is getting better, right?
Right.
Like, I feel like once this damn Caliber arc's gone, we'll finally get the show even out, because it would be like a new arc and like everything should be reset. Like, this Caliber arc's pacing is not great.
Right. And me and Rai had the same thought. It's like the opening arc, and this is to a lot of the writer shows, is like it's the get the world building and all of that in place so you can tell the story you want to do. Is like, yes, that first arc's always going to be rough for various reasons, be it the acting level, directors, story, whatever the case may be. That first arc's going to be, and once that first arc is done and you're into that meat of that section of the show, everything is balanced right. Everybody's in the cast is where they should be. They get the story where they're wanting to go, because they don't have to focus on building the world, setting the rules, or any of this other stuff that they had to do in the first 5 to 10 episodes, which I feel is we're finally to that point. Saber's by no means terrible. It's made some very dumb ideas, in my opinion, up to this point, that have made quite a few people that I've read up that watch writers like that are no longer interested in this particular show. So
Dude.
I understand that. I understand how quickly a show can get you turned off.
Holy shit! Like the numbers on this show are terrible. like you can see it in the podcast number count. It's like fucking nothing. It's like nobody is tuning in, pretty much. Which, whatever. That's fine.
And like for me, just because I want to add on that, is like I check the same things, and I'm not just checking hours. I'm checking Japanime and several of the other ones that do their own reviews that are
covering Saber,
higher profile than ours are.
Yeah, makes sense.
And even their numbers are lower than where they were for other stuff.
Yeah, I feel like this show's real rough. And like normally it'd be like, oh, it's almost through the first arc, everybody come back, the show's actually good. But I'm like, okay, we've had like 2 good episodes. I don't know if the show's gonna hold out. So like I can't even be like, alright, everybody show back up, right?
Right. Like, and I really, really hope it does maintain what it's set up, because this is a very, very great, vast improvement.
Oh yeah, it's very much like writer show now. Yes. The last thing I have to kind of add is the writer of this episode, or a 2-parter, is Hisegawa Keiichi, or Keiichi, and then the director is Nakazawa Soyujiro. Yeah. So thanks to those 2 people. Good job. Hopefully keep coming back and fixing Saber. But we will see. But again, like, they've done a ton of other shows for writer and stuff. So like this writer was I guess recently the lead writer of Ginga. He also did Nexus, and then Dyna. I mean, like, he's done other stuff, but like he's written the most episodes in those shows. And then As for this director, he was the lead director in X8, Ninja,
Whatever.
Tokuger, Wizard, Gokaiger, Shinkenger. So sword fights, yeah.
If he was in charge of episode 12 in X8, we have a problem now.
He did Geki Ranger. Let me see what the hell he did in X8.
If he did episode 12, he literally ripped off his own stuff.
Well, I mean, like, I can't really blame him for that. Episode 12, 12 and 13. So he did not. Oh, okay, he did 13. But 13 is not the Kyria one. That's the one right
that's
after.
the episode after. That's the one right after.
Yeah, so this is weird because, yeah. So he didn't do 13 or 12. Yamaguchi Kyohei did.
Alright, so I don't have to get mad at him for rehashing his stuff.
Yeah, that guy was the lead director in Cure Major.
Which is fantastic, by the way.
So, there you go. Honestly, episode 13 of X8 was really good too. Like, emotionally. So that probably explains why you can freaking shoot an episode after major shit happening.
Like, it's one of those, like, we get to see how well it holds up for next week.
Yep.
I guess it's a good place as any.
Pretty much. Alright. Anyway, thanks everyone for joining us, and we'll catch you next time.
We'll see you back here next week for more Kamen Rider Saber, and so come back for that hit or miss on whether or not I'm going to be angry or not. But if you want to guarantee that I won't be angry, join us on Tuesday for watching Sentai Kira Major. Because at least that show is very much a delight to anybody who hasn't watched it. Even if you're not into Sentai, I highly recommend it. Because it is everything from let's make fun at ourselves to, oh my god, this is just a fantastic show.